G'day, it's Jono Brake here from the Forged Leader with another round of Monday Myth Check, and today we're shifting our Monday Myth Checks into the people category, or the people trail marker. In terms of the trail markers, it's a third trail marker, and today we're looking at this idea that my A players perform well on my own. I really need to concentrate on building up my C players into B players and B players into A players, and so that's where I'm going to invest most of my training, most of my development of people. Okay, I really want to caution this one. At the end of the day, what we're going to show today is that you need to be investing in your A players more than anybody else. There's a bunch of reasons for this. Your A players are your top performers. They're typically your leaders. They're typically the people that sow the most into your company. They're typically the people that you've brought around and have become A players, either in your eyes or in the whatever categories and structures you put around how to rank that. And there's ways to do this, and we can help you with that. But when you start to think about these A players, they've got there for a reason. And so you want them to be able to then lead the business and to show others how to be A players as well, because other people can join, but also A players can fall back, okay, as we'll talk about in a minute. So if I'm just investing in my B and C players, and particularly C, which is where it's like it's most obvious, they need the most help, they need the most connection with the company, the most training. So of course that's where I go and invest. So what's some of the problems with that? Well, let's look at your A player to start with first. As I said before, the A players get there for a reason, right? They've got a certain style to them, a certain presence, a certain ability, capabilities. They've got, the right mix of attitude, aptitude, and skill for the role that they have, and maybe advanced roles in the future. They love the culture. They believe in what you're on about. They treat the clients well. They do their job well. They, if they're in leadership, well, everyone's in leadership, but if they're in specifically prescribed leadership, they lead well. People like being led by them. People like following them. People like hanging about with them. They look after their teams well. They look after clients well. All these sorts of things. And so the idea here is that if I don't invest in that, I don't continue to invest in that, then they're going to start to ask the question, what's the point? Okay? But also, here's something else. This assumption that everything stays the same. So once they're an A player, always an A player. All right? So obviously we know that's not true. Even if they're staying still as an awesome person, as an excellent, competent person, the world is shifting around them. So at some point, by doing nothing, they become incompetent. And so this idea that we have this assumption that these are fixed traits, that that they just maintain themselves because they are A players, all that sort of thing. We've got to be very careful of this, because it's not true. And it basically, again, tells that story to the A players that you're just not worth it, right? It's much better to invest in the troublesome child, the C players, than it is the A players. Now, to be fair to a business owner or to a team leader or whatever, it can sometimes seem like that's where I can get my most leverage. If I can see a C player become a B player, at least a B player, very rarely does C become A, but sometimes that's skill-based, and if they can learn stuff, then great. So this idea that the assumption that it's a fixed trait, that it won't change and all that sort of thing, so we don't need to maintain it. It will decline over time if you don't maintain that. The third thing I'd like to think about here is that your best people are the ones that are most likely to leave quietly, okay? So it will suddenly look like, I've got a new opportunity, or I've got I'm actually moving cities, or I'm going somewhere else, because these tend to be people who think about their world in terms of what they're investing into your business, what they're investing into you. And if you're just taking all that from them and just then pumping that into your B and C players, and not rewarding them, and not connecting with them, and not giving them opportunities, not putting them on the best jobs with the best benefits, not giving them profit share or whatever it is that you feel like you need to do to really reward your A players. If you don't know them personally, that's terrible, as any leader would tell you. You've got to know your people personally, but your A players, these guys are doing the utmost investment into your business. And so you need to invest in them well. And so if I don't, these guys are going to quietly leave. And we don't want that to happen. So I would call this one, just because they're A players, I don't need to, that they'll do their own development. I don't need to do that. I call this one a myth. Jim Collins was right when he said great people matter more than great vision. In fact, the quote is great vision without great people is irrelevant. And so, but great people isn't a status you reach and then you say, okay, I'm here, I've made it. And then we leave it unattended. Okay, great people left unattended will wander off. They just will. Okay, at the end of the day, this is what we're really thinking through here. My A performers or A players perform well. So why do I need to invest in them when I need to invest in my C players who need more help? Please invest more into your A players. I want you to take time this week to think about how you rank your team members, A, B, and C, or C plus and C. So your A's are your top performers, your B's are pretty much your average good workers, they're good people, and there's a spectrum there. And then your C plus, which can become B, and if they don't, they become C. And if they're already C, you should be doing everything you can to move them out of the business wherever possible. This can apply, obviously we're talking about employees today, but it can also apply to vendors and clients as well. So think about that today. Are you investing mostly in your A players? If you're not, change your pattern of behavior because your A players are going to make your business successful. Something to think about today. I'm Jono Brake. This has been Monday Myth Check. As always, enjoy the journey.